is the 6 strategies to help you deal with your menopausal symptoms. So number 1 is sleep. 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I'm going to reiterate why that's so important. You need rest, recovery to help with your digestion and help with your focus the next day, as well as if you're working out, resting and recovering for your muscles. Now, this is the part is if we're in menopause, we are typically frustrated because we can't find the time or we're not able to get to sleep. So some tips to help you sleep. First and foremost, it starts in the morning. Yep, your sleep cycle starts in the morning. You want to reset your circadian rhythm, which means you want to wake up when the sun comes up and go to sleep when the sun goes down. Now, that doesn't mean that if the sun comes up at 5 a.m., you're up at 5 a.m., but you want to think about getting your cortisol levels and your melatonin levels in check. So cortisol levels are going to be the ones that give you the energy to get up and going. You want those high in the morning, lower as the day goes on, so that when they're lower, you can go to sleep. And the opposing hormone, melatonin, which should be high in the evening to help you fall asleep, and then lower throughout the night so that you have low levels in the morning. That's going to help you stabilize. So if you're resetting your circadian rhythm by getting up with the sun and going to bed at night in the evening with the dark, that's number 1. Number 2 is when I talk about getting up with the sun, that means you're getting actual sunlight on your eyes, on your skin, in order to stimulate that cortisol. That's important. You want to resync your schedule. Vitamin D helps with that. So vitamin D also, you can take it in a supplement. You get it through foods. You get it through your supplement, but you want to make sure you have the sun to actually activate the vitamin D. Vitamin D is no longer considered just a vitamin. Vitamin D is considered a hormone. So make sure you've got enough vitamin D. It depends on where you live because your climate will affect how much effect it has on your metabolism. More sun, more vitamin D. Less sun, you need to maybe take a higher dosage of your supplement. The next thing when you want to get some good night's sleep is to make sure that if you are working out, you're not working out in the evening. You want to work out as early, first thing in the morning or earlier in the day as you can, because workout will again increase your cortisol levels. And if you're working out at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, your cortisol levels are spiking and now you're just out of whack again, trying to get that melatonin high, cortisol low. You've done the opposite and you've got that rush and you're not ready to go to sleep. Next, I want you to think about the environment. So think about the room that you're in. You should have a cold, dark room so that you're comfortable and are not stimulated by the light. So again, talking about that circadian rhythm, waking up with the light, going to bed at night, make sure that you have room darkening shades, dark room, cool, especially if you're dealing with hot flashes and night sweats. You want it to be cool and you want it to be comfortable. So you want to wear some clothing that is going to be light and airy and wick breathing, because you are going to be potentially dealing with, and we're going to talk about that next, dealing with hot flashes and night sweats. So you want to make sure you have a comfortable sleeping environment. And I just want to check over here to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, most importantly, in the evening, you have to have a bedtime routine. Yes, it's crazy, and it's taken me a long time to kind of get into sync of what my bedtime routine can be, and it can look different for everybody. But one of the first things you need to do, and you hear this all the time, is get rid of the screen time at night. You need at least 1 hour before you go to bed with no screen time, and that screen time means phones, computers, TVs, so on and so forth. So think about an alternating activity, whether you are going to read, listen to music, meditate, listen to a podcast, but something to turn off the screen and focus on that relaxation mode. The other part of that could be taking a warm bath, having that chamomile tea, that things that get you into that sleep mode in the evening. What you don't want to do, I repeat, is exercise in the evening. We already went over that. You don't want to have a big heavy meal before bed, specifically high protein, because that takes a lot of energy for your body to digest, and it also increases your, it burns thermogenically, so therefore it increases your body temp. Your body temp will normally increase between 7 and 9 o'clock at night anyway. And I'm sorry, ladies, I know most of my clients hate this, but you need to get rid of the alcohol. If you can get rid of it altogether, fantastic. If not, if you can at least reduce it, and we're going to talk about that more when we get into your liver function, but you want to at least reduce that so that A, you're having your alcohol earlier in the day so that it's not interfering with your sleep. Also, when we get into the next topic, it does affect hot flashes. So just to recap, you want 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You're going to get up with the sun-ish, go to bed in the evening, focus on dimming those lights throughout the day. You want vitamin C and sunlight on your eyes, vitamin D in you, and activated through the sun. When you go outside, maybe for a morning walk, drive with the window cracked open, sit on your deck and have that morning coffee. You want to make sure your room is cool, dark, and your clothing is comfortable. And you want to make sure that you have set the tone with a good nighttime ritual to relax, unwind, get off the screen, and get ready for bed. I was able to take my sleep from an average of 4 to 5 hours a night all the way up to almost 8.5 hours. So it's awesome that by putting those techniques in place, you can actually get quality sleep. There's other things that we can talk about. I have this wonderful cooling pillow, so we'll jump into the next topic, which is hot flashes and night sweats. So they're probably the most common and most talked about. There are probably about 34 and counting different menopausal symptoms. And women that are dealing with menopause may have none or all or any range in between of those symptoms. So there's a litany of different symptoms of what you can have with, drying skin, thinning hair, all those sorts of things, as well as moodiness, irritability, depression, anxiety, digestive issues, getting your gut flora off, liver problems, blood pressure, heart palpitations. I could go on with the list, but the number one thing that I hear the most is about the hot flashes and night sweats. So your HP, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal glands, and thyroid, those are your endocrine system. That's where all your hormones are. And thyroid is helping you balance homeostasis, and it balances, it's your heat regulator. So when your estrogen and progesterone start to drop, those other hormones have to kick on. And a lot of times this throws us into a hot flash or a night sweat. Very similar, just depends on the time of day it happens. During the day, we are more tempted to call that a hot flash, where at night, especially because we're usually in a warmer environment, blankets, things like that, it's a night sweat. You might wake up just drenched and you need to change your sheets. I hear about it all the time. One of my clients actually would open up her window and have to stick her head outside the window. So there are a litany of things we can do as well, plethora of things to deal with those hot flashes and night sweats. So to review quickly, we're gonna go back to the alcohol. Yep, back to alcohol. Reduce, if not eliminate, alcohol. Alcohol can be a trigger for your night sweats. If you've ever done that sip of red wine and automatically felt that flash on your face and those red cheeks, that can be something that will accelerate and activate and trigger your hot flashes. If they're interrupting your sleep specifically, that goes back to having that cool, dark room and light clothing. Here's the next tip. Put a fan on your head, whether you have an overhead fan over your bed or you can put a small fan near your head. We let heat out, so we want to make sure that that fan is there to cool, and that will really help. You can also, instead of taking a hot bath at night to relax, you might want to do more of a cool shower or a cool lukewarm bath. Because again, like I said, your body temp between 6 and 9 rises anyway. So if you can do something to kind of keep that down. I've had women do, ice packs around their necks. Those little, you see those rice packs that you can put like in the microwave for heat. You can do the same thing and put it in the freezer for cold and kind of trigger that cooling effect as well. So eliminating red meat at night, meat at night as well, because as I said before, with sleeping, it is thermogenic. It will raise your body temperature, and it could be something that activates your hot flashes. So that is another thing to remove, is your hot flashes, for your hot flashes. Diet has a lot to do with this, so watch sugar and artificial sweeteners and processed foods. All of those can have a play on raising that body temp as well and affecting our a hot flash trigger. A lot of people I know, sugar is a huge trigger. And the last one is stress. Now, stress can be environmental, it can be physical, it can be emotional. but stress will do something. Think about it, that physical heart palpitations, blood pressure rises, so on and so forth. And that could be anything from exercise, that could be from just trying to meditate, take deep, calming breaths because you're emotionally stressed. And it's also stress in the toxins that we're going to talk about when we get into our gut health. So to recap, get your sleep under control, 7 to 9 hours. Get your hot flashes under control by doing those things that I say. Figure out what your triggers are and then work with them to reduce those hot flashes. So number 3 is detox your liver. So what happens as we age, there's 2 things. One is the liver is our largest internal detox organ, and it needs to function properly. So when we talk about detox, I use that loosely because obviously that's what the job of your liver is, to detox. You doing a detox to your liver is kind of redundant, but you can give your liver some love by supporting the detoxification process, because part of what it's detoxing is the toxins and waste and also the excess estrogen that we're trying to remove when we're in menopause. We want to get rid of the excess estrogen and toxins. So in order to allow your liver to do that, there's some things we can do to give it some love. Now, the other thing that's happening besides just the general detoxification and the excess estrogen that we want to remove is your liver ages just like the rest of your organs, right? Your organs are aging. I always consider myself a 1967 car, and there can be 2 1967 models, and one that takes care of itself and one that just doesn't change the oil, doesn't get the tires rotated, whatever. After time, one may wear out quicker than the other, but the one that took care of itself and got the tires rotated and the car that got the oil changes and whatever is still going to wear out. You're still going to need replacements, right? There's going to be a time when the engine burns out, where the transmission goes, spark plugs need to be changed, whatever. So I want you to think of that. Your organs, liver, are still aging. And as they're aging, they become slow and sluggish, and it's harder for them to do their job. So just like those spark plugs that need to be changed and cleaned, we want to do some cleaning of that liver. So there are a really easy way to kind of do an all-natural liver detox. So I'm not selling you anything. I'm not talking about, you got to go out and buy this supplement or drink this apple cider vinegar solution or whatever. There are some basic things that you can just change in your diet to help your liver process and do its job more efficiently. So what I want you to keep in mind is your liver is not going to detox overnight. The liver, if you also know, it can regenerate, but it takes a good 6 weeks to really get a thorough turnover in your liver cells. So what I know it's hard, but I want you to think about doing the following. You're going to be removing sugar. Yep. It's gonna come up time and time again. If you don't know about sugar, it is 8 times more addicting than some hardcore drugs like heroin or cocaine. It is probably the number 1 nemesis in our society right now, causing diabetes, obesity, and the list goes on, certain types of cancer. So take that sugar right out. And I'm not talking about sugar from fruits, natural sugars. I'm talking about processed sugar, that white granulated stuff. Next, take out UPF. UPF stands for ultra processed food. So it is very difficult for most of my clients to go completely to a whole foods diet without any type of processed food, right? There are certain foods that are just going to be processed. You want a cracker, it's going to be a processed food. And I respect that. But what I want you to do is take out the ultra processed foods. So what that means is, if you go down the grocery store line and you're down the aisle and you see the Nabisco crackers, I'm going to use that as my example, and you see the Wheat Thins and you see the Triscuits, take a flip over and read the ingredients. Because those Wheat Thins, and they use that name lovely to make sure that it's, it's whole wheat. Well, sure, there's whole grains in it, but then list all the other 15 ingredients that are not so healthy for you. Or flip over those Triscuits, which is going to be the lesser of the 2 evils, that has wheat, oil, and salt. So what would you pick? Something with a bunch of preservatives, chemicals, and additives, or something that is just basically wheat, oil, and salt? Now, I am not a proponent. Those of you who are going to jump on and say, yeah, but it's got, saturated fat in the oil and blah, blah. You can't just quit everything cold turkey. So I'm saying try your best to read your ingredient labels and get rid of those things that you can't pronounce. There is a wonderful app. There's like Think Dirty, if you've ever heard of that. There's also something called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. It's an app that you can actually download on your phone. You can either use the search bar and put in the name of a product, or you can go by brand, or there's actual a barcode and you can scan items, and it will give you a rating from 0 to 100 and divide it into categories of poor, fair, good, and excellent in terms of both personal care products but also food products, so that you're picking choices. If you want a rice cracker, then find the brand that is going to be the most beneficial without the additives, chemicals, and preservatives. So think about getting rid of those ultra processed foods. The other thing is no dairy. Dairy can be very bloating and cause mucus. We want to make sure that we remove dairy, not forever, just for those 6 weeks to, again, give our liver some love and let it do its job. The other thing you want to remove is wheat. So wheat is highly inflammatory, especially the wheat that is processed here in the US. It is overly processed, it is GMO'd. They take all the good stuff out, and then they're forced to reconstitute it and put all those vitamins and minerals back in. Unless you're talking something that is completely out of, sorry, just gonna get that out of there, all natural, and you're not affected by wheat in any way, really just give your body a break. It's a hard thing for our bodies to digest. Make sure that you're giving your liver some love. Remove wheat just for those 6 weeks. And the last thing, and I know you're gonna hate this, but here we go, back to alcohol. Yep, take that alcohol out of your diet. It's amazing to me, and I'm not going to say that I'm a purist. For my wedding when I got married way back in 2017, we actually asked everybody for we want wine, and we got hundreds of bottles of wine and went through them, and it was great. But slowly, the more I do and the more I learn and the more I do the research and also feel myself, the less alcohol I have, the better I feel. Couple of reasons for that. One is alcohol is a toxin. It takes a lot for your liver to have to detox that. It is a toxin. The other part of that is the enzyme that you have in your liver to process and detox that alcohol is less and less and less as you age. So when you're losing that enzyme that's in there, it makes it more and more difficult. So if you took a 25-year-old female and a 55-year-old female of the same height, weight, physical fitness, so on and so forth, and gave them a drink of alcohol, and then 2 drinks, and then 3 drinks, you will significantly see the difference between the effects of the alcohol on an older person at 55 that doesn't have the enzyme the same as the 25-year-old. You'll see them get drunker quicker. They'll be taking a longer time to recover, so on and so forth. So getting rid of that alcohol is crucial to giving your liver some love. So please, if you are just one of those people, and I get it, I can't think of a single client, maybe 1 or 2, that was able to completely give it up. That's okay, but I want you to give your body enough time to detox. So think about 1 drink every 2 to 3 days. So you don't want 1 drink every day. You don't want to catch up and say, okay, I'm going to have 3 drinks on a Saturday night. You really want 1 drink every other day to really, really, really make sure that you're detoxing that liver. That's important. It will help us when we won't go into that next phase, because most of us are looking to lose that menno belly, and detoxing your liver is going to help it detox to be able to get rid of waste and be able to get rid of the bloating, the inflammation, and the other things that come with our aging process and that can cause that middle belly weight gain, that midlife weight gain. Number 4 on the list is gut health. So gut health kind of goes hand in hand with your liver. There's a lot of discussion about your gut microbiome and leaky gut, and how your gut is your second brain, and more the research that goes into it, the more that's showing that that's true. And if you just put it into layman's terms and think about it this way, your brain is made up of 60% fat. It's fed through the gut. The way to feed your brain is through your food. So it really does matter what you eat. You know that you feel better when you eat better. You look better when you eat better. So your gut really is super important to keep it clean and to keep it happy, so that you have energy, focus. You're not feeling sluggish, you're not feeling tired, you're not feeling bloated. So the food that we eat is really, really important. So thinking about those whole grains, vegetables, fruits, protein, lean meats, those sorts of things, you know the drill. We're going to get into nutrition in number 5, but for number 4, I want to talk about pre and probiotics. So here's the misnomer. A lot of people say, oh, I've got to take my prebiotics, I got to take my probiotics, but they don't really know what they are, how to get them, or they're doing it from a supplement. Not saying I'm against supplements, I actually take them as well, but your first line of attack is through real foods. So everything I'm going to talk about is working with real foods to support your aging body so we can age gracefully when we're going through this menopausal years. So what I want you to think about is probiotics. Think about pro, they're for you. Those are your little soldiers. Those are the happy gut bacteria, the good gut bacteria that you're feeding into your body. So the way you get those probiotics are through those foods like kefir, kombucha, kimchi. There is certain types of pickles and sauerkraut and yogurt. So you want fermented foods. I think tempeh is in that list too. So you want fermented foods that are going to give you that good gut bacteria in your probiotic. So when we take the flip side and we look at a prebiotic is actually the food to feed that gut bacteria, right? So they both come in feeding our cells. One is the actual putting in the good gut bacteria. The other is the prebiotic that's feeding that probiotic, that good gut bacteria. And that is going to be through a lot of really good foods like whole grain oats. Oats are great. Different resistant starches, so that would be bananas, not when they're already brown. You want them as ripe as possible. That gives you some good resistant starch, low glycemic, not a big shot to the glucose level, and it helps feed that gut bacteria. Something like, if you haven't heard of it, dandelion greens, Jerusalem artichokes, which are not really artichokes. They're more of a root vegetable. They're very tasty. Actually, I like to slice them up and make them like a baked fried kind of crisp with a little oil, olive oil and salt. Some other foods, apples, actually, beans, legumes, and cooled rice and potatoes. Those are also resistant starches. So if you think about resistant starch, if you're boiling that rice or those potatoes, there's going to be that pop of that high glycemic sugar release. Once they cool, those cells close down and you don't have the same shot of glucose into your system. They become a resistant starch and then they can help feed your gut bacteria. So take care, have a happy gut. And the last 2 that I'm going to talk about, one is nutrition. So now we're getting into the food into more in depth. To keep it really, really simple, check out the Mediterranean diet. It is probably one of the best diets to help you focus on cleaning up your liver, focus on your gut health, and give you the nourishment that you need, because the Mediterranean diet focuses on fruits and vegetables first and foremost, whole grains, seafood, actual red meat is at the top with sweets and things like that, and very little dairy. Dairy, in my opinion, is like a condiment. I put cheese in a salad. I would never slap it as one of my food groups. If you think about it, going back to dairy, in my personal opinion, again, this is just my personal opinion, there is no other species that has milk from another animal than the humans. So cows have cow's milk, goats have goat's milk, cats have cat's milk, so on and so forth. And there's no other species that has continues to have milk after they're weaned. So I really have to say, what was the reason? Do we really need it? Doesn't mean you can't go for a nut milk. I'm actually looking at starting to make some of my own plant-based milks, like flax is very easy to do because you can throw that in with some distilled water, a little vanilla, a little cinnamon, blend it all up, and it's instant and ready to go. So I really want you to look at that Mediterranean diet. There is red wine on that, so if you're doing the liver detox, not so much. Let's take that out. But the red wine, especially in the Mediterranean, so when you're talking Spain and Italy and France, they don't have the same preservatives, so be careful on the red wine. But there are lots of antioxidants and resveratrol and things that are very helpful for you in your aging process in specifically red wine. So I want you to look at that Mediterranean diet. Think about lean meats, fish, Lots of fruits and vegetables. Look at their pyramid. It's different than what we have here in the US. Here we have the standard American diet, which is not the same as the Mediterranean diet. So take a look and give it a try. I guarantee if you start to change these things out, you will feel better. And last but not least, let's get into fitness. So fitness is great. You should be moving every single day. Start with where you're at, and then you can grow from there. If the first day all you need to do is get up and walk, then get up and walk 5 minutes. Then add a couple more minutes and go 7, and then go 9, and then so on and so forth. If you already have a routine in place, be careful with what it is, because as we age, we can't do or shouldn't do what we did in our 20s and 30s and our 40s and 50s. It changes. What you do in your 20s and 30s will affect your 40s and 50s, but you're not going to be doing the same things. We are different people. We are different women. We have gone through our childbearing years. We are, like I said, taking care of parents, taking care of household, getting our kids through high school, off to college, wherever you are. We're not in our 20s and 30s anymore. We can't stay up all night. We need our sleep. We can't, eat the way we used to. Well, we also can't exercise the way we used to. So going back to that cortisol, you want to be careful that you're not doing those high intensity trainings, those high intensity interval trainings, those heavy intense workouts that are going to spike that cortisol level. We're trying to bring our stress level down. We want to keep that level adequate, because cortisol can contribute towards your belly fat. So what I want you to do is think about your fitness in 3 areas. One is slow state cardio. So that can be walking, biking, swimming, walking on the treadmill on an incline, arc trainer, elliptical. Something slow state cardio would be great to start in your exercise routine. You should be doing that most days of the week. Number 2, I want you to think about stretching and flexibility, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So think about taking a yoga class or a stretch video to really make sure that you're stretching out those muscles, elongating and removing that lactic acid after you do number 3, strength training. You want some sort of weight-bearing exercise, resistance training, strength training, weight training, whatever you want to call it, at least 2, if not 3 times a week, hitting every muscle group. Again, as I said before, if you don't use it, you lose it. What I see time and time again, because personal training and group fitness was my first jaunt into the fitness industry back several years ago before I became the health coach and menopause coach. And I did all the high intensity interval training and taught the classes and so on and so forth. But strength training is key. What I see time and time again with my clients, again, is if you don't use it, you lose it. So they're coming to me when there's already a situation to say, geez, I have cortisone shots. I'm taking, Advil every day. They want me to have a knee replacement, a hip replacement, so on and so forth. 2 things that I see common. One is you've put on extra pounds. That extra pound, every extra pound you carry is an extra 4 pounds of pressure to your knees and 8 pounds to your feet and ankles. So extra weight, get rid of it. It puts more pressure on those joints, your knees and your hips, your knees, and your ankles. The other thing is, because they're not using their muscles, they're not working out, they're not doing resistance training, the joints are taking over. The joints are doing what the muscles are supposed to do. So if you just think about aging, now we're looking at our 70s and 80s. We want to be able to walk upstairs. We want to be able to, not trip on the curb. We want to be able to get in and out of the car, up and down off the toilet. So our muscles need to be able to lift and move us properly, reach those high things off the shelf. I don't want to think about just lower body, or pick the laundry up, put the towels away. You've got to have those in place. So think about strength training. So it will increase your muscle density, your muscle tone, which is huge because it will take the weight off of the work of your joints. It takes up more space than fat. It will increase your metabolism, therefore you're going to burn more efficiently, and it actually helps with bone density. So those are my top 3 in the fitness area: is do some sort of stretching, make sure you're doing some sort of cardio, and you can combine your cardio with your strength training if you know how to do that. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but you should be doing some sort of movement activity, getting your heart rate into that fat burning zone most days. And when I say most, that's 5 to 7 days out of the week. and strength training a minimum of 2, if not 3 days. And you can do more than that if you just hit different body parts, but we won't get into that here today. So I'm going to recap for you. If you are perimenopausal and you're dealing with symptoms, if you're menopausal and you're dealing with symptoms, focus on your sleep, 7 to 9 hours. Over on Instagram, I actually have a link tree, and I've got a tip over there. It says 8 tips for 8 hours. It'll give you in writing what you can do to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Number 2 is get those hot flashes under control. On that same Instagram page, Shaped by Cheryl, on the link tree, I do have 10 tips to beat the heat. So look for that beat the heat. And that will give you some ideas, more than what I've said here, to help you reduce, if not eliminate. I barely have a hot flash anymore, and I was probably having 10 to 12 a day just by sticking with those tips. Number 3, get your liver, give it some love. Give it some love. Detox those things that I talked about: no sugar, no processed foods, no dairy, no wheat, no alcohol. Get rid of it for 6 weeks. Let your liver rest and replenish and do its job. You will feel better, and you will lose weight just by doing that. The next on the list for number 4 is gut health. Make sure that you're getting those pro and prebiotics in the foods that you eat. That's important to make sure that you're keeping your gut microbiome balanced. Number 5 on the list is nutrition. Look up the Mediterranean diet. Take a look at the fresh fruits and vegetables, lean proteins and seafood, sprinkling of nuts. It's a great way. There's tons of information out there. And last but not least, get your fitness under control. Make sure you're stretching most days of the week, you're doing some sort of cardio most days of the week, and you're strength training, resistance training at least 2 to 3 times a week. With that, if you have questions, feel free to email me. I tried to put up a form. I don't know if it worked because I'm still learning all of this, but there is a form where you can join my email list. I do have a website. It's CherylVega.com. I have a video over there on menopause. I have a video over there on metabolism and lots of different handouts. So follow me on all things TikTok, social media, Facebook, and Instagram. Cheryl Vega, Shaped by Cheryl, your midlife menopause mentor. Thank you for watching.